This is the Jug O Sip podcast.
Basically, I wanted to read this post online. It's a Tumblr post that very accurately and clearly explains the differences between a tulpa and an altar.
A tulpa construct specifically.
Yeah. Tulpas are intentionally created by their host, and the practice originated from the Tibetans/Buddhists many years ago. Altars/facets, I think that's what that word says?
Facets, yeah.
Yeah, altars/facets are not intentionally created and are the result of childhood trauma, and these terms strictly belong to DID/OSDD community.
Now, DID is what is formerly known as MPD, multiple personality disorder, but DID was now changed to dissociative identity disorder, and I forget exactly what year they changed it because it made more sense. See, these alters are created because of a form of disassociation. Yeah. If you have experienced any kind of trauma, you most likely have disassociated in some level. Now, you probably haven't developed new alters and personalities and disassociated in the way that you might see in the show United States of Terror. But you might have at some point for even months at a time felt like you were trapped from your emotions, like behind a glass. It almost feels like you're behind a glass wall from your feelings. You can't really feel things. Sex feels numb. Food doesn't taste good. You get lost wandering around in places you're familiar with because you have hit a certain wall with your trauma to the point where it's gotten so painful that you can't afford to feel anything.
Yeah.
And it may not last even more than a week. Some people, I had it for months a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I had
9 months.
I had it for years. For a while because
on and off.
Yeah, because the reality that I was living in was just too harsh to take, and that's the key pattern here. When you experience something that essentially makes reality itself unappealing to the mind, then your mind, depending on the conditions of your mind, may have you invent what's essentially an adult imaginary friend to help assess your own thoughts, or you will involuntarily create an alter that will or more that will take over for your personality, so you can literally check out of reality.
Like, say for Tara's example, you have
from the United States of Tara.
She has Alice, who is a 50s housewife based on a former caretaker of hers that she completely forgot existed. But it was subconscious. She has Buck, who is this redneck male, but he's sort of like the patriarch of the group, and he comes out when she feels threatened and needs to feel safe. Alice comes out when she feels like she's failing her children. T, the alter that's a 15-year-old girl in this poor woman's 40-year-old body, comes out when she needs to connect with her daughter. Each alter has, and there's more alters that get introduced sporadically, because sometimes you can develop, you could have the same 3 alters for years and suddenly have a new one you don't even know about. Yeah. And her husband told her, he'd be like, there was a new one, I don't even know what the fuck it was or whatever. And she has no recollection of any of this. Literally the alters have forced her to cheat on her husband 33 to 35 times in their marriage over the course of something like 17 years or something.
Yeah.
Because the alters have relationships. Buck would go have sex with the woman at the bowling alley, and then Tara would wake up and naked in bed with a woman, and she wasn't even herself wasn't gay, but Buck was a male.
Yeah, he's a straight man.
So he claims he doesn't have a dick because it was blown off in Nam.
Right.
But they all have different personas, and Tara's knows most of them exist, but they're very separate. And eventually you learn how to I forgot what the phrase was, but there's a way to unite with your alters in a way where they appear to you, and it's you can separate from them, and it makes it easier to manage them. But that's usually through years of therapy and medication. There's different levels of it. The movie Sybil and that story that turned out to be, I think her case, it turned out to be fictitious.
Yeah, the story of Sybil was actually a hoax.
But that's what that is. It's if you were raped at a young age or had something deeply horrific happen to you at some point, and you could develop it later in life. You could be 35 years old and have all these traumas, and then suddenly one day you can't handle it anymore, and reality slaps you in the face too hard, and you disassociate so hard that you create an alter you don't even know exists, and you wake up in someone else's house or come to in a bar in a totally different outfit.
This is something I don't actually talk about much. There was a time back before I knew that I had depression, I was completely ignorant to the fact that I had depression. And I thought that I had some form of DID.
Yeah, because of how I thought I had that too.
You can find us on Google and all social media at Jug O Sip Podcast.
New episodes release every Monday and Friday.